pretty obvious what the elephant in the room is this week. A group of journos and commentators did an ad for Sportsbet a few weeks ago. One of them, our very own Kane Cornes. They were exposed on Media Watch last week. There's Sam McClure, a great contributor to this show, Damien Barrick, another great friend of the program, and there's Janine Perrott giving them a spray. The Age apologised on the weekend in a letter to subscribers and said that Sam McClure had owned up to his error and apologised, of course, Sam being an investigative reporter for the Age as well. And we'll address Damien Barrett in a moment. Damien works for AFL Media, and I probably didn't have a huge issue given that he's never taken a stand against gambling. He doesn't seem to worry about that, and good luck to him. But Kane, you're no longer an up-and-comer. You're a senior commentator, one of the most respected commentators in this land. What you say has true metal these days and true cut-through. Do you regret, because you were the only one not mentioned on Media Watch, because you've never been an anti-gambling spokesman to my knowledge. Do you regret doing it now?
No, I don't. I've done it before. I've done stuff for Bet Deluxe before and Sportsbet. Caro,
do you think you need to do it anymore with all the other roles you play?
The fact that you're bringing it up and you're someone who...
And you know my views because I've spoken to you about it privately.
But more wide-ranging, you're someone who I've sought advice for on many other issues as well. If you're thinking it's a massive issue, then that gives me some thought of pause that perhaps, I'll think about it next time. But I guess well-respected media AFL people like James Brayshaw or Matthew Richardson or Shane Crawford or Billy Brownless have
they don't have the career you've got though.
James Brayshaw's got a much bigger
No. He's a football commentator. You have strong opinions.
He hosts his own drive show. He's the number one man at Channel 7, which is the host broadcaster of the AFL, and he did a much larger campaign than what I did in the lead up to the Olympics for Sportsbet. He was the voice of Sportsbet ads campaign.
Yeah, well, I don't really like that either, but he's not good. You're the person I work with.
And I guess these wagering companies spend money with my employer, SEN, and this platform and the platforms that you work with. So I think the Age have taken a really strong view on it because of the individuals involved. But personally, I thought it was a bit of fun. I can be quite a serious kind of guy, and that's my style. I thought it showed a different side to my personality. If you think it's a massive issue, I'm giving it a moment of pause, but at the time I didn't think too much
Tony
of it.
Jones, of course, who at Channel 9, host of the Sunday Footy Show.
So who did you have? You had no problem with Damo?
Well, Damien doesn't have an issue with...
Who is your problem list? You have a problem with Sam?
Yeah,
you thought that was out of line?
I think Sam was right. I think Sam's taken it on board.
You came down on him very hard?
Well, privately I did, but he's apologised and he's done the right thing.
So you think Sam was out of line because he'd written a critical piece about the industry?
I think you can't be a senior investigative journalist.
So did you have a problem with Kane and Damien and Tony?
Well, I think Tony was singled out for an anti-gambling opinion he'd had on a Channel 9 show a few
So you have a problem with Tony?
Weeks ago. I don't work with Tony really. And I don't have a problem with Damien because Damien, as I said, is not working for the Age, and he works for AFL Media, who is a big gambling...
to those that say to you, Caro, that your newspaper and people that you work for obviously take money from gambling agencies?
Well, I wish we didn't have to, but I think a personal endorsement is a very different thing.
We should have also mentioned... endorsement. It was a content piece. They weren't reading out odds.
No,
and it was a light-hearted
You're advertising Sportsbet. Craig, to be honest...
They are a content business.
Can we just address Damien Barrett, because he has been the subject of a pretty strongly worded column in the Herald Sun today by Mark Robinson.
Mark Robinson wrote this morning. As president of the AFMA, which is Damo's kind of once-a-year annual dinner, it's imperative Barrett, who was believed to have paid $5,000, is strong on the ethics of journalism. Clearly, in this case, he was not, which means his position as AFMA head is untenable. What's the bet here that says sorry or stands down this week? Well, I think he predicted the response he was going to get. This is what Damien Barrett had to say on Triple M today.
Once upon a time, the person who wrote that might have been considered for a role in an ad of that nature. It's hard living rent-free in that guy's head.
There you go.
Not a surprising response. I don't believe Damien should stand down from either of those roles. And as I say, I think Damien said to you, Craig, in your podcast, a few years ago he would have had a problem with it. He's changed his tune now. I think the fact that he's working for the AFL, which is has such a strong gambling partnership, is sort of fine. I just think I'm torn on you, but I just think with your role in footy journalism and the media now, I think you should think about doing that sort of stuff.
You've made your view clear, and it's different to to mine.
It's my elephant tonight.
It is, but I respect that. But I would like to think now that you will remove yourself from any of those situations. If your newspaper column appears on a wagering ad, you'll protest to the paper, you'll leave the room when there's a wagering representative on your radio show.
I think it's a completely different
argument. I think you've
argument.
got to absolutely distance yourself now because you're on the record with your view.
I will continue to talk to all of my employers about taking gambling ads and to try and find other ways.
And I think we should respect it because the gambling now is the biggest, one of the biggest stain on life.
And the way the AFL is grooming young people through its website is just disgraceful.
So I admire that view, albeit not mine, but you need to live to that value now. And I agree with you on Sam because he was strong on his opposition to it. He wrote an investigative piece, so he shouldn't have done it. But so long as you live to your own values...
If I didn't work for any organisation that didn't take gambling, I wouldn't have a job. And then my wonderful opinions would not be out there, and no one would know them.
You'd understand how inconsistent that might appear to some